session 117, and today we finish with Genesis 48. We are now at verse 20. And Jacob blessed them that day. So in the Hebrew culture, blessing always has to do with the laying on of hands and prayer. It's a Hebrew custom, but it's still beautiful today. On Shabbat evening, Erev Shabbat, when Jewish people start their Friday night dinner, the father always lays his hands on his sons' heads and he prays for them and he blesses them. And he says to them, may you grow up just like Ephraim and Manasseh. And we Messianic believers also like to do that. We put our hands on our children's heads and we pray for them and we bless them. May you be like Ephraim and Manasseh. And for us, it's more relevant than for the Jews, because the Jews are not in the line of Ephraim and Manasseh, they're in the line of Judah. We are really the Gentile nations, and we bless our children. May you grow up like Ephraim and Manasseh. You grew up in Egypt, you grew up in a different culture than that of Abram, Isaac, and Jacob. But may you grow up like Ephraim and Manasseh, coming out of a strange culture and returning and being one again with the covenant and the culture of the God of Abram, Isaac, and Jacob. In you shall Israel bless, saying, Elohim make you as Ephraim and as Manasseh. Beautiful. The sealing of Israel's non-Jewish people, the tribes that is not part of the house of Judah. The sealing of these people is still found today in the Jewish prayer book called the Siddur. So, although the Jewish people are jealous and they don't really like the idea that pagans or Gentiles or people that hasn't grown up being Jewish are now following the Jewish Sabbath and eating kosher and going away from Christmas and Ishtar and Sunday worship and coming into the Hebrew culture, they're still a little bit jealous. But although they don't really understand it, they are praying for us. Every time they pray this prayer that Jacob is giving in Genesis 48, when they say, Elohim make you as Ephraim and as Manasseh, they are blessing us, the Gentile people, that is coming back into covenant. And also, you know that the Jewish people say the Shema 3 times a day. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Dis die Shema from Deuteronomy 6. Shema Israel, listen and obey, O Israel. Yahuwah your God, Yahuwah is one. And they pray that 3 times a day, not really understanding that they are praying for us Gentiles, that within the Gentile nations, those who Shema will return out of Egypt and become one again with the rest of the tribes, like Ephraim and Manasseh. Ah, beautiful. And Jacob continues, he set Ephraim before Manasseh. Yeshua's assembly is greater than any of the individual physical tribes. This you need to understand. Ephraim is put before Manasseh, and both Ephraim and Manasseh is not even full-blooded tribes. And yet Ephraim is put above Manasseh. And both Ephraim and Manasseh, through the blessing of Joseph that received a double blessing. Remember, Joseph's name means double fruit. And through Joseph, remember, Jacob gave him a double portion. So the half-breed 2 brothers, and even from those 2, the youngest of those 2, are set above all the others. Not in importance, but in this blessing. Because in the prophetic, Jacob knows that the descendants of Ephraim will have this wandering spirit inside of them, this half Egyptian, half Hebrew, and they will end up serving other gods, and they will end up leaving the covenant and being put into exile through the Assyrian king, and that is very interesting because the Amorites and the Assyrians and all these Canaanite people were the enemies of Israel. And eventually the house of Israel, the 10 northern tribes, Ephraim, were taken into captivity by the Assyrian king, and they were spread all over the earth. Can you see the amazing prophetic line? But yeah, thank you to our older brother Judah. Although jealous, although not understanding, they are praying for us. It's just amazing. And Israel said to Joseph, "See, I am going to die now, but Elohim shall be with you, Joseph, but also with your descendants. And Elohim will bring you again to the land of your forefathers." Joseph is once again declaring this truth. Jacob is declaring that through Joseph, Ephraim, or the 10 tribes, will return to the land of Israel. Once, together with all the other tribes, when they were still a restored kingdom, when they came out of Egypt physically, but also prophetic for the future, way past the first Exodus. Jacob is prophesying that the seed of Joseph will return again to the land that was promised to Father Abraham. "Moreover, I have given to you one portion above your brothers." Remember, this is what I talked about. Joseph received the double portion above the firstborn Reuben and above the leader Judah. "I've given you one portion above your brothers that I took out of the hand of the Amorite with my sword and with my bow. The wealth of the Gentile heathen Amorites." Through Abram, Isaac, and Jacob, both of them, although they lived in the land of Canaan, they accumulated lots of wealth. And there is wealth now that as a double portion Jacob is giving to Joseph. That Israel will always be the head and never the tail. "Do not let anyone steal your birthright, even though we are not the firstborn of Abraham." Don't let anybody tell us we are not part of Israel. Through Jacob, through Israel, his name changed, remember. We have the wealth of this covenant promise. And nobody, not Judah, not the Amorite king, not the Assyrian king, not the Antichrist, not the beast, no Christian, no Catholic, no Jew, can steal our birthright away from us. This is very important for us to remember and to appreciate. And I just want to take you back to Jacob's blessing. "In Israel shall you be blessed. Elohim make you as Ephraim and Manasseh." And now I want to turn to David, because David understands this. And in the Psalms, let me start with Psalm 80. Psalm 80 verse 2. I'm going to read verse 1 as well. Psalm 80 verse 1. "Give ear, O shepherd of Israel." So who is David talking to? He's talking to the shepherd of Israel. And Yeshua came in the New Testament and said, "I am that shepherd. I am the good shepherd. I am the shepherd that even David was talking about." He said, "Give ear, O shepherd of Israel, you that lead Joseph like a flock." Remember, Yeshua said, "I came only for the lost sheep from the house of Israel." And Joseph and his sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, is the 10 northern tribes. They are the lost sheep. And here, David confirms that Yeshua is the shepherd of Israel, and he leads Joseph like a flock. He has led, like Jacob said, the angel that led me all my life, and the angel that spoke to both Abram and Isaac, and eventually the angel that spoke to Moses and brought Israel out like a flock out of Egypt. The same angel, this same Redeemer, this same shepherd will bring Joseph's descendants like a flock out of every tribe, nation, and tongue, back to his covenant, back to his land, back to his promise. And he says, "You, O shepherd of Israel, you dwell between the cherubims, shine forth." Yeshua was promised as the light that came into the darkness, and the darkness could not root out the light. Remember John 1 verse 1, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, and a light shined in the darkness, and the darkness could not overwhelm it. And this shepherd, because only God lives between the cherubim, remember, on the mercy seat of the covenant, of the Ark of the Covenant, that's where the presence of Yahuwah was and still is in the heavenly temple. And here it confirms that the shepherd, who is Yeshua, he says, I'm the good shepherd. He's together with God. He shines forth from between the cherubim, the angels, that's on the Ark of the Covenant seat. Give ear, O shepherd of Israel, you that lead Joseph like a flock. You that dwell between the cherubims, shine forth, O shepherd of Israel. Shine forth before Ephraim and Benjamin and Manasseh. Stir up your strength, O shepherd of Israel. Come and save us, O shepherd of Israel. And the word save in Hebrew is Yasha. Yasha. Come and Yasha us, O shepherd of Israel. Yeshua, our shepherd. Before Ephraim and Manasseh and Benjamin. Benjamin also being the brother of Joseph. Beautiful. Then I want to run to Psalm 108, verse 8. Because we're still investigating this blessing of Jacob on the two sons. He said, Psalm 108, verse 8, Manasseh is mine, and Ephraim is also the strength of my head. And again, this is David. He says in Psalm 108, verse 1, O God, my heart is fixed. I will sing and give praise to you. Awake with a psalm and a harp. I myself will awake early. I will praise you among the people. I will sing praises upon you among the nations. And where is Ephraim and Manasseh? Among the people and among the nations. For your mercy is great above the heavens, and your truth reaches into the clouds. Remember, who are these that is coming to me like the clouds and like doves? Be exalted, O God, above the heavens, that your beloved may be delivered. Save us with your right hand and answer us. And God says, Manasseh is mine. Ephraim is the strength of my head. Judah is my lawgiver. We'll get to Judah in the next chapter. Beautiful, hey? Psalm 133, verse 1. And today I'm going to end with this because this is the end of Genesis 48. Tomorrow we'll start with Genesis 49. Psalm 133, verse 1. Behold, how good and how pleasant is it for brethren to dwell together in unity. And the disciples said to Yeshua in the book of Acts, is now the time that you're going to restore the kingdom of Israel? Is now the time that you are going to make all 12 tribes dwell together in unity? But it wasn't the time. Remember, Yeshua said, the time is not for you to know. You go and spread the gospel in every land upon this world. Start with Judea and Samaria, and then go to the every country of the world. Spread the good news. Bring my lost fishes and my lost sheep back. Because when I come again, in my second coming, as the Lion from the tribe of Judah, as the King of Kings, and not as the Lamb of God that's going to die on an execution stake, but as the Judge of God that's going to rule and reign and vanquish all my enemies. Then the brethren, all 12 tribes, the lost tribes will come together with older brother Judah, and then it will be good and pleasant, because then the brothers will dwell together in unity, in one united kingdom that is restored in the hand of the Messiah. As God said to Ezekiel, take the 2 sticks and make it one in your hand. Write on the one Ephraim and his brothers, and write on the other one Judah and his brothers. Go and read Ezekiel 37. It is like precious ointment upon the head that runs down upon the beard, even Aaron's beard, that went down all the way to the skirts of his garments. Beautiful. This is how it is for God. It's like an ointment, like being anointed, if his children can dwell together in unity. So until we get to the United Kingdom again, not the United Nations of this world that is rooted in the Tower of Babel and that's rooted in Freemasonry, that's not the United Nations. That is the false kingdom of the Antichrist and of the serpent, the tree of knowledge. But the brothers that's dwelling together in unity, that calls upon the same God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and that lives in the halakha, in the way we walk, just like our forefathers. These brothers that dwell together in unity, we form the kingdom, the church, the kahal. Remember, the Gentile nations, the fullness of the Gentiles come back, melo ha-goyim of Romans 11. And Jacob said, in Genesis 48 verse 16, the Malach that redeemed me, bless the lads, and my name Israel be on them, and the name of Abraham and Isaac, and let them grow into a multitude like fish. That multitude is the kahal, it's the ecclesia. This is the church of God. He wants the older and the younger brother to be united. When the prodigal son came home, the father cried. And he was so happy to get his youngest son that was dead and that became alive again out of the pigsty back into his house. And all father desires is that these two houses, older brother Judah and younger brother Joseph, will just dwell in unity together, in peace, in his united kingdom. That for Father Yahuwah is like oil that runs down from his head into his beard all the way to the seams of his garment.